जैन सर आवाज आ रही है हमारे आपको?
आ रही है, but hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, all right, great. That's fine.
So I said welcome to our university.
Thank you.
And I think we'll start within 2 to 3 minutes. 2 minutes we can start. Yeah?
Sure. I wasn't sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So shall I try sharing my slides?
I think first formality we will do. Yeah. Welcome and all that, then we can start that.
Yeah, I just wanted to test out.
Yes, you can.
Okay. All right.
Madam, shall we start? Because it's 11.
ते मला तो slide एकदा test करतात है whether it is coming or not. Because yeah, visible. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we Raut sir is Dhruv sir, you can start.
Rather, I will start with ma'am, with your kind permission.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Very good morning to all of you and hearty welcome to Dr. Anujji. It is a wonderful webinar we have organized, and you are the resource person to share your thoughts and your work and the concept of biomimicry and sustainable development. This is a very new concept for the students, although nature has been operating it for a long time. And it is nothing but innovation inspired by nature of the living beings, which is just to copy or mimicry, make the mimicry of the principles with human engineering that nature has been operating in its natural selection process. It is the choice to select the best that is tested for millions of years in living matters. Therefore, the designs following biomimics and biometrics will ultimately allow human productions to be more efficient, resilient, and sustainable. This is a goal to developing products, processes, and policies that are well adapted to the life on this earth. So biomimicry is to study most suitable models of nature and reproduce it with scientific tools and engineering. People who are involved in designing our new world are not coming to the table of biology till 1997, when this term biomimicry was coined. And once the concept of biomimicry was understood, things are changing with high productivity and efficiency. Today we are fortunate to have such a guest who has been the founder member and director of BioC and visiting faculty, Jain. He is a passionate person about creating ecologically responsible and nature-inspired designs for the built environment that are good for people, biodiversity, and ecosystems. Is a National Geographic explorer, a recipient of the Johan Mosenthal DeWitt Award for Lepidoptera, that is nothing but butterfly conservation, by Sussex Society USA, and he also got the Cities of Love Environmental Sustainability Award in Singapore. A biomimicry professional in Southeast Asia. He also founded the Biomimicry Singapore Network, which is part of Biomimicry Institute's global network. Anujji combines his knowledge with biomimicry to create and engage outdoor experience in tropical ecosystems. This is a topic which will be the future design making investment. And I'm sure his delivery today will inspire all our students, especially biology related students, to understand how a big tree with a big trunk or only a trunk can sustain so much of load, how the variations, how the load is distributed, and how we can in our new world. I welcome Dr. Anujji into this international webinar, and I also welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor Madam, who is also the President of this particular webinar session. And I welcome all the participants, staff and students into this webinar for a responsible listener and also participant, because you will be answered and to be shared or will be trust open to. I welcome again all of you with a great heart of Solapurian and to this Punya Slok Ahilya Devi Holkar Solak to Anujji for his thoughts to share. Anuj,
Thank you. Can I start now?
yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. In the next 35 to 40 minutes, I will share my ideas on biomimicry and how it can lead to sustainable development. So allow me to share my screen again. Right. I just want to highlight my email address, which is on the screen. Can you see the screen well, clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's very clear.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So if any of you in the audience have questions or would, yeah. Okay, so let's dive right in. As climate is warming. A good question is how would nature respond to fire? Well, because we are suffering with fire-related issues, right? Let's think about how would nature respond to this challenge. Some of you may know that there is this black fire, a jewel beetle, that capitalizes on accurate infrared receptors in its body that are able to of heat, sometimes even 5 to 10, 20 kilometers away. And it is then able to zone, and it does it because it specifically looks for burnt wood in which it lays eggs. So over time, mastered the art of detecting fires and able to respond to it. Imagine if we were able to detect systems that are so small yet so accurate, then we would be able to respond to fire events in a very, very different way. We know that pine cones are very sensitive to heat. Cones that are usually closed, as you see on the right of the screen, and that is when they release their seeds. It does it because at times of heat after forest fires, the ground is very fertile and it's a great time for the cones to seed themselves. Again, a beautiful strategy, but really does it by opening and closing of the cones by using these fire-sensitive resin materials that are biodegradable. Now imagine if you could create materials like that, that respond so quickly yet are biodegradable. I think we would be in a very different world today. What about water? I think we also know that climate change, the rainfall patterns are set to vary a lot. Places that are wetter are going to get even more wet, and floods are becoming a bigger problem. Or floods more specifically. Well, you would know by experience that some of us who live in the coasts would be familiar with mangroves. Now, mangroves are excellent ecosystem engineers because they not only create the biodiversity-rich habitat, but they also shield off the impact of the strong waves that come in from the seas and the ocean, inspiring a new generation of desalination systems. So Singapore, as an example, is quite heavily dependent on importing its water. Well, because it's a very small country and it doesn't have enough lakes and reservoirs, so it imports a lot of water from the neighboring country, Malaysia. Despite the fact that it's an island and surrounded by seawater, why then not desalinate everything? Well, it tries to, but desalination still is very expensive and it uses a lot of energy. So the water agency in Singapore is looking at mangroves, the natural desalination processes, and moving into even like circular economy. I don't need to explain that in nature everything is circular. One animal's waste becomes another's resource, like the dung beetles here who feed on dung. So this has inspired a whole generation of ideas globally on how we should operate in closed loops, be using waste in all industry ideas. Even at how different species communicate, like schools of fish swimming, or these movements and how these animals support each other instead of opposing them, has inspired a generation of new algorithms that we call artificial and small intelligence. Those of you who are familiar with computer programming would know computer algorithms are actually based and inspired by how superorganisms, if you will, group of organisms work together to build large. Nature does it because it's a master at creating shapes, and it uses materials rather inexpensive, because it's very mindful of using air. Well, I would also what we call life's principles. Now, I have through this talk given you several examples, and to explain right now some examples that nature always leverages cyclic processes such as day and night, season during their blooming time, but they will do it day in, day out, so animals know when to come to them. And so systems have been programmed by evolution to respond to that. How can we be more cyclic? Now, nature also always uses life-friendly chemistry. Now, a lot of people are fooled by the word chemistry. No, this couldn't be further away from the truth. Now, in nature, there is chemistry everywhere, right? Toxins are made out of chemistry, and nature, as you see in this photo. Sorry about my. And finally, nature always uses low energy processes. So plants, as we all know, and most of life function energy process, but also in the ocean, waves really assemble out of calcium and abundantly available in the oceans. So they do heat and beat process like we do in the industries, but using something by pressure and chemistry, a more sustainable future. Now, how do we bring this together and sort of begin to design with nature? It happens with looking at a 4-step process, which starts with scoping. So this is scoping any problem that you might encounter and defining what is the scope, what is the problem I'm just trying to solve, what's the context like, and through that trying to identify what is the function that I am trying to solve for. I say function because biomimicry is a highly functional. We are always trying to identify or match our design requirements with the functions of organisms or strategies of organisms. Okay? So the first stage during the scoping process is to identify this function discovery. Here we discover the natural models meeting this function. Often we have to look into several species to really pinpoint and identify the champion. Once we've done that, we do a little bit of research into its biology, but you have to go beyond this biology. You have to abstract this biological strategy into a design principle. And that is where it gets exciting, because suddenly from biology, we go into the design discipline that engineers, architects, designers, planners, everybody can understand. And that is when we begin to create. So with these strategies, we brainstorm, we create ideas. These are then emulated or mimicked to finally create a product, which we will obviously want to evaluate. Now, remember the previous slide I talked about life's principles. These principles can be a mentor, a framework which we follow in this entire process. So we use the life's principles to measure the performance of our. Keep in mind that all of this is using nature biomimicry principles, so it's obviously creating conditions that are conducive to life. So in closing, for next few slides, I do want to say that as we begin to concepts, not systems, but to cities, bigger systems. Okay? There are people who've written about this and how cities also need to move from open to closed those systems. And this graphic in particular is created by my friend Prashant Dhawan from Biomimicry India, with tips from nature. And we talk about how cities should be we could be inspired by spiders, stronger than steel. If we are to build underground systems, we maintain their body shape despite so much pressure. We should be looking at micro-horizon wide web for all life on the planet. Firstly, is the biology appropriately mimicked or emulated? Some said and done. We may just mimic a principle at a very surface level.